cannons! Listen to the bands! Hey, this is
That was not audio problems. That's actually the way you sound.
Tuesday. Yeah, I've been reading some complaints about my audio.
We got you a new microphone now.
I did have one day where Skype screwed me. So if you're listening, Microsoft, send me a check.
We would have, in order for them to send us a check, wouldn't we have to already be making money to prove that we lost something?
Well, I know. I'm just saying, send me a check. I don't.
All right, just in general.
Yeah.
What's on our agenda today? Let's hit it fast.
Right, let's get right to business. This is Business Pants. I'm Damian Ross. That's Matt Mascari. Today we're talking about coronavirus. Sorry, everyone.
Wah, wah.
I can't avoid it. And then we're going to have two new segments today. First, get off my lawn.
I'm looking forward to this.
I don't really get that one, but we're going to have somebody complain about Facebook.
Somebody. It's always me.
And then we're featuring a new audio segment where we're gonna dissect a interview between CNBC and the Delta CEO right here on Business Pants.
It's so much to look forward to. I don't know where to start. Actually, I do know exactly where to start, and it is the return of the harp sound.
Okay, here we go. Which I still hate.
It's just so relaxing, and we have not found a good substitute, so we're going with it.
All right, so I realized, Matt, that coronavirus is now fully ruining my life because not only am I just a paranoid loser, but I can't put together a show without 45 coronavirus stories because that's what the media talks about now. That's what the business news is focused on.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of stories about coronavirus and revenue. They were all these who you got stories. Let's
get right at it. I'm gonna try to get through coronavirus quickly, but feel free to interrupt. I have about 10 little nuggets here, but
Corona nuggets, not something you want ever.
Although there is a feature later, McDonald's might actually help you eat Corona nuggets in a more healthy way. All right, let's start at the top. There's a study that says that coronavirus is more fatal in men than women. So
finally something men win at
for women, right? So this might help. We're talking about gender diversity at boards in Asia. So this could be a big push in that direction.
Wow, that's morbid right there.
Look, hey, it's not my fault, Asia, that you can't put women in leadership. It's not my fault.
Well, we can say this may pose a problem for Goldman Sachs, who was not going to push their gender diversity on boards in Asia, but now they might have to.
Yeah, in Asia, in Latin America, and the Middle East. Only in the Western world did they think that was important. Up next, Holiday Inn owner IHG sees revenue fall in China because of coronavirus. But can you imagine not predicting this? I can't believe these are news stories. Of course that tourism is going to fall, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you're a regular listener to this show or a watcher of this show on YouTube. We did do a little bit where I had my kids read out the United Technology earnings call. And United Technology is a company on the board of the Business Roundtable. They did not think coronavirus was that big a deal. Basically, they were, but they did say, "quote as long as it's contained as a hedge." But there was a series of Q4 earnings calls where companies were not. I mean, they thought there would be some impact, but basically, it sort of got minimized across a bunch of company calls.
So that's their big insight. As long as it's not a problem, it won't be a problem.
That's what it was. It was no big deal, at least for us. And and my reaction is always your supply chain could die. You know that, right? Forget the revenue impact, which is what everyone focuses on. But
it could literally die.
Literally, people might die from this. But it was no big deal. And now, big deal. Looks like a big deal.
Yeah. I have more on supply chains later. Apple cited global supply constraints for iPhones and lower Chinese demand as a result of the coronavirus.
Whoa. Manufacturing their own face masks at Foxconn didn't work?
I guess not. Haagen-Dazs closes about half of its Chinese stores, which means we also have to deal with the sad prospect of falling obesity rates. So that's a bit of a shame.
Oof, double whammy.
Around the world, the news has Japan on the cusp of an outbreak, German investor confidence falling sharply because of coronavirus, India's poultry sales decline following coronavirus rumors linked to chickens. Leave the chickens alone, all right?
It's always the chickens. They got to
And
get
then,
meatless with
yeah,
that meat.
and then the French health minister warns there's a credible risk of coronavirus pandemic. So that's all fun.
I like credible.
The Dun and Bradstreet, which sounds like a country western band, which is probably why I've never heard of them. Dun and Bradstreet, what is it? It's like a financial research, right?
Yeah, they do like research. They do like book accounting and reporting, and I think they actually do some payroll stuff too.
So they're reporting that coronavirus could impact 5 million companies worldwide. They found that at least 51,000 companies worldwide, which includes 160 of the biggest, have one or more direct or tier one suppliers in the impacted region. So that's a big deal, right?
Not for them. Not as long as it's contained.
Okay. Chinese banks have been ordered to disinfect cash before issuing it to the public. How do you like that one? They're going to literally wash the cash.
Uh,
China's drinkers get happy hour margaritas delivered to their door.
Making it sad hour. It's not happy hour then.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be drinking if I was. Anyway, here's the one I like. With the coronavirus outbreak in China continuing to spread, McDonald's, Starbucks, and other fast food companies are ramping up contactless pickup and delivery services to keep their workers and customers safe. So customers are ordering remotely, right, on their phones and on computers.
Okay.
Employees seal the meals in bags and put them in a special spot for pickup without human contact. For delivery orders, drivers drop packages at building entrances, disinfect their delivery bags, and wash their hands more frequently. And then drivers are also carrying ID cards that are showing that they and the people who made the food had their body temperature scanned to prove they did not have a fever.
So I had a vision of someone like going through the drive-through and they just throw it out the window. And
But then someone has to throw it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like contact.
no, but they're wearing
We're kidding here,
hazmat
though.
suits. Like there's literally no. At some point, I mean,
Unless it's coming from a drone from Mars, like how is it contact? Like what store are we buying into here?
but isn't that the modern trend does seem to be, and I don't mean this. It's not a U.S. centric trend. The modern trend does seem to be avoid human contact of
talk to
any
me.
kind.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway from coronavirus. Hoping that we get beyond it pretty soon and safely. Is that we're learning a lot about sort of our future dystopia, about all the ways we'll be avoiding humans, all the ways we'll be working from home, all the ways we'll be like paranoid about everything. Right? I mean, I feel like this is an incredible case study in all this.
I mean, in a weird way, we are making the active case for Facebook as a viable future investment because no one wants to physically see anyone else anymore or interact with the universe around them. It's too burdensome. Simultaneously, aren't rates of depression and suicide up linked to social media? And when people get off social media, they feel better about the world. It just seems like we're all funneling into this wonderful investment opportunity that is no more human contact, nor will we have humans in the workplace with robots. And simultaneously, we hate every second of that.
Well, then I think the solution is just dipping the masks in like happy gas or something, right?
Are those only if the masks are manufactured at Foxconn?
Yeah. All right. Well, finally, just because we have China on our mind,
Oh man,
let's not forget about the real war, which is this Cold War trade war.
is that still
Um,
going on?
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi warned that accepting Chinese domination of 5G, that's not heavy language there, would be akin to choosing autocracy versus democracy.
Okay, I have this segues neatly into get off
All
my
right, so
lawn. I feel
let's
like.
just get into our new segment. Let's just get into it. Let's go Harperson.
All right, all right.
All right, so we have a new segment called "Get Off My Lawn." It was going to be "Old Man on the Couch," but I think we're trying to be gender neutral here because uh, anyone can be yelling "Get off my lawn."
It's
Right?
true. Get off my lawn is not gender specific.
So I'm going to set this up, and then I'm going to let our complainer just loose. But here's the thing.
If that has to be me. There's only 2 of us here.
Well, maybe, but they don't know that. If they're watching, they know. But they're listening, they really have no idea.
You
Okay.
fooled no one.
So while on a trip to Europe over the weekend, Facebook owner, dictator, or whatever you want to call him, Mark Zuckerberg, suggested that new rules and standards were needed to promote public trust in tech platforms. He said in a Financial Times opinion piece, "I believe good regulation may hurt Facebook's business in the near term, but it will be better for everyone, including us, over the long term." And then EU officials rejected his proposal, saying it's not enough, it's too slow, it's too low in terms of responsibility and regulation. And George Soros wrote a letter to the FT calling on Zuck to stop obfuscating the facts by piously arguing for government regulation and urging him to resign. So that's the backstory, Matt. Get off my lawn. Let's get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any music for this?
I don't. That would have been a good idea. I don't.
Okay. Next time.
What I do have is an image. So if you're watching this on video, you can see just the talking bubble of me saying "Get off my lawn."
All right, something. And if you go on too long, I'm going to buzz you out.
Please do buzz me out.
Get at it.
Can we start with, in the same vein where I'm tired of billionaires deciding to save us from the universe, which Jeff Bezos is the latest example of, which we'll talk about later this week, $10 billion pledge to save us from climate change that Amazon helped create. Can we stop with the executives pleading with government to regulate their industries because apparently they're not capable of making pragmatic choices how their business has destroyed humanity? I mean, isn't this just the latest case? All right, coupling this with Nancy Pelosi saying choosing Huawei is choosing autocracy over democracy. Facebook is corporate autocracy, okay? They're a fake public company. We all know this to be true. We've for some reason markets have accepted this as fact, and now the autocracy is saying we are not capable of ruling, so some other government needs to take responsibility for stuff that we suck at. Mark, if you truly suck at this, give up control. You give up your voting power. Say, I am not capable of handling the incredible, immense, and frankly, ridiculous amount of power and authority I have over 2 billion people's lives and what they see. I am, and on one side of the mouth, he's saying it's cool if you lie in political ads. On the other side, he's now asking for regulation over, their power over political ads. Just give up control. All right? Mark, get off my damn lawn. That's where I want. I mean, isn't this absurd? It's absurd. It makes him look like some sort of crusader for the First Amendment. And, on one hand is how he wants you to think of him. And on the other hand, he's just saying to the governments, look, this is really your problem. It's not mine. Facebook is it's an injection system for advertising. It's an injection system to lie or force 2 billion people to buy something, buy some narrative, whether that narrative is a lie or truth, whether it's you get a new toaster or you believe, Putin is a genius or whatever you want to believe. It is an injection system into 2 billion people's consciousness. And just now it's like he's waking up and saying, oh, well, somebody else should oversee this. This is, governments need to regulate this. You can regulate it. Give up your power and listen to what everybody else is saying. Give up your voting control. Don't surround yourself with Peter Thiel, who's been a board member since Facebook was founded. He was an angel investor. He was 37 years old, and Mark was 20 years old. In his formative years, Peter Thiel is basically the mentor he has. Don't surround yourself with people who just agree with you or push you with their own personal agenda. Surround yourself with a diverse group of thinkers who can be voted out. Check and balance your power. That's how you avoid corporate autocracy. Am I wrong? I need to get off. I'm getting off the porch. These kids are driving me nuts.
My buzzer's not working. So. There we go. I thought you'd be like angry. I thought you'd be angrier. I like the concept.
Are you kidding me?
I thought you'd be a little crazier. Maybe we need some music next time. We need
honestly,
some ranty music.
That will make it. Maybe I'll put that in post because it will.
I need to hear we need to hear like a screen door slamming in the wind or something. Or
I do think like the divestment movement around fossil fuel.
Wait, you're still going?
I think it's I think there's a divestment movement from fossil fuel that's been going on that's influencing companies, I think, at this point, or at least influencing zeitgeist, because I'm not sure that it totally influences companies, but there's been this deep focus on like divesting from fossil fuel and not divesting from fake public companies like Facebook with this much power. I do feel like at some point you want to talk about like the problems that Facebook creates. It's a net negative on society. Divest. They shouldn't be a public company. We shouldn't. I'm done with them.
The funny thing I was talking about earlier is that if Facebook was at least doing something cool, I'd stand by Zuck. I want to like Zuck, but it's just like it's Facebook. Come on, what are we doing here? Boring.
They
stupid,
bought Oculus.
Depresses people. It's dumb. Facebook, you're dumb. Nobody cares. All right, let's get out.
All right, let's harp out to the next segment.
All right, Maddie. Today we're trying something new today because I had the day off, quote unquote, yesterday because we didn't do a show. So I try to teach myself some audio editing and all that crap. So I pulled some audio from a CNBC interview with Delta CEO Ed Bastian. So Ed, congratulations, you're my first case study.
Study in audible blowhards.
I'm sure you're pleased. So here's the backstory here. The backstory is that there was a big story last week. Let's call it the reclining airplane seat etiquette debate, right? There was a video going around of an American Airlines passenger punching the back of a seat of another passenger after she reclined into him. And you know what? Full disclosure, that's been me. Not the recliner. I never recline, despite being 6'2". I never recline. But I'm a puncher. I'm a kicker. I'm a passive aggressive. I am. I mean, I don't punch like him. It's more like I kind of, when I have to move, I'll give it a little extra juice on my knees because it hurts. I mean, for those of us who are tall.
Wow.
I guess I can't.
I don't know how this is a debate.
Yeah.
Everyone
Really?
needs to the chairs recline. You're sitting in the back seat. I know you don't like it.
Yeah, but you could also when you're smoking a cigarette, you could blow smoke directly in my face, but people don't do that either. You could, except that smoking a cigarette is a choice that you're making. Well, how about this?
A reclining chair.
You could bring an egg salad sandwich onto that same plane and eat it in front of me. People are smart enough not to do that.
No, I'm fine with that too. Do it.
Oh God. All right. So good. So we disagree because that was the main thing going around.
Everyone needs to be an adult.
This was a 50-50 agreement. Yeah, be an adult and don't recline your stupid
Be an
seat.
adult. You don't punch anybody. You don't punch anybody.
At least tell me before you go right back.
I'm cool with that.
Me.
That seems polite.
That's all I want. Actually, that's all I'm really looking for. And Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian agrees. He says he doesn't recline his seat like me, Damian Rollis, but he believes people should have the right to do so, like Matt Moscardi believes. But he says the proper thing to do is, if you're going to recline into somebody, is you ask if it's okay first. All right, but that's not the reason why I pulled this tape. And by the way, the idea of CEO Ed Bastian sitting in any kind of class that needs to recline his seat, right? It's ridiculous. So he's not reclining his seat because he's in a first class seat, right?
Because he can actually extend his legs.
Yeah, he's not in coach with me. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So, okay. The other news is that Delta has announced that the company is making some big changes ESG wise. So why don't you play the clip one?
All right, clip one. Here we go.
Here we go.
And we are announcing that starting March 1st, Delta Airlines will become the first airline to go fully carbon neutral on a global basis.
All right, so that's the big news. And this is the thing, right? Like this is 2020 is the year of the greenwash. So the question is, are they really? I mean, who's going to keep tabs of this? And the great thing, of course, is that the CNBC's host reaction to this is it's twofold. And I just play the clip and then we can talk about it. This is how.
And a lot of people are going to do a double take. An airline becoming carbon neutral is a bit of a reversal of how we think about things, given that airlines, at least as far as I know it, are going to be based on using fossil fuels for as long as we can possibly imagine. How much is this going to cost on an annual basis?
All right, so Matt. So okay, what is it? Is he either like has no idea how to talk about these issues, or does he not believe Delta CEO Ed Bastian? Because he's like tongue tied, he's stuttering, he's stumbling, he doesn't know what to say.
Well, two things stand out. Okay, yeah. to the reaction. One thing, can I play it really quickly again? Here,
yeah.
Listen.
Airlines, at least as far as I know it, are going to be based on using fossil fuels.
Airlines, as far as I know, are going to be using fossil fuels. As far as I know.
Oh, here, quickly play clip 3 because Ed really draws this is a real win for environmental science. Play that clip 3.
I don't ever see a future that we're eliminating jet fuel from our footprint.
So there you go.
All right, so he answers that part. As far as I know,
let's get that straight. Like,
in order to fly,
we're never actually gonna.
We need to light something on fire in order to fly. Yeah. That's basically what that comes down to. But
get over it.
But the second part was, how much is this going to cost? Okay.
That's why I included that in the clip, because that's what we always come down to here, right? It's like he can't even like celebrate maybe the idea of going carbon neutral. He's just like, well, this is going to be too expensive, right? Like, can we afford this?
Are we at the point where that's the wrong question? Because what is the alternative? Let's say Delta comes out and says, like their CEO goes on CNBC and says, just for the record, we are never going to be carbon neutral, and we are going to light as much shit on fire as we can to fly you around the world. Let's say that that's his quote. Mm-hmm. Is he going to say, well, how much is that going to cost?
No.
Like, he's never going to say that, right? So
yeah.
We only view this through the lens of one particular cost, which is cost. I mean, the embedded question is, how much revenue am I as a shareholder going to lose for you not doing that? Not saying what is the unintentional cost of you doing that.
Right. So it's like, it's like, oh, great, you're going to save the world, but how much is it going to cost? All right, just play clip 4, and Delta CEO Ed Bastian can answer that. How much is it going to cost?
We estimate about $1 billion over this decade, close to $100 million a year.
And I will say this, that you don't see the video, but he's like proud as a peacock when he's saying this. Like, this is the biggest expenditure, like he's a hero. Like, I'm spending $1 billion. Of course, it's over 10 years, but whatever.
Well, let's do the math.
Yeah, let's look into it. So it's $100 million per year. And first, before you get to that, I did a little bit of sleuthing, okay? So last year, the top 5 named executive officers at Delta, including Ed Bastian, they received about $41 million in options and stock vesting just last year. And they were granted an additional $30 million more in stock.
Let's pretend, though,
$71 million right there for 5 individuals.
Let's pretend, though, that they get paid whatever they get paid, and this is a totally separate issue. let's pretend Delta paid $940 million in dividends last year. Their total cash out for dividends was $940 million.
That covers the whole cost of the 10-year program to go carbon
He's
neutral.
effectively saying Delta can help save the world if it doesn't pay dividends for 1 year. If shareholders don't get, and that's not share price appreciation, that's just dividends. If Delta decided to not pay dividends for 1 year, we can eliminate Delta's carbon.
And this is why I call bullshit on this money question, because jump to clip 6, because this is how he sums up this program.
This is not a race to be number one in this space. This is a race for our planet, and we want to make sure that we're as open to all stakeholders that want to join us on this mission as possible.
It's a race for our planet.
It's a race to the planet. We have to go. We need to go fast to race for the planet. We're just going to wait 10 years, and it would only take us 1 year. This is where the divide is between the stakeholder conversation and reality, because the planet doesn't necessarily have 10 years to wait for any company to go carbon. And we're using Delta here unfairly as an example because they just happen to be on CNBC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay. By the way, bravo, Ed, for dropping the stakeholder buzzword. That's the word of 2020. But let's go back. Let's just finish this up. Play clip 5. Let's talk a little bit more about the money angle of this.
The great news for Delta is you're doing great, Ed, and relatively flush. Other airlines are not necessarily in your situation.
You're doing great, Ed.
So the CNBC. So the reporter here, his perspective is like, okay, well, Delta's rich, so they can afford to save the planet. But what about the other airlines who aren't doing as well? They can't help save the planet.
Can you imagine? Okay, the Business Roundtable, if they wanted to be serious about the stakeholder buzzword, if every one of those companies paid 0 in dividends for 1 year and took all of that money to be carbon neutral, you'd have a significantly larger impact on saving stakeholders in the planet than any CNBC rhetoric you could possibly. It doesn't take you being rich to do it. You are currently paying out to investors, and investors have benefited, are the only ones who benefit from those dividends. They're the only ones who benefit from those dividends.
Well, that's a perfect highlight of the shareholder versus stakeholder debate right there.
If you took 30% of what you're paying in dividends and stock buybacks and just funneled it into carbon neutral or funneled it into communities or education I'm not talking about philanthropy. I'm just talking about, like, these are largely companies who also pay the de minimis tax that they can.
Yeah.
You hire 400 accountants and you move, deferred tax assets around to limit your tax liability. All of that energy and effort you could just basically say, well, just don't pay dividends for a year, Delta, and you're carbon neutral.
So you hear us, CNBC and Delta, just stop acting so confused and overwhelmed and surprised. Okay, it's just part of doing business. 2020. All right, Matt, that's all I have. Anything else? No. Good. Play us out.
I'm gonna play us out.
Get us
good
out of
ranty
here.
show. That's Damian Morales. I'm Matt Moscardi. This was Business Pants. We are Free Float Media. If you like what you heard, subscribe, share. We don't pay for listeners. Unlike some competitors in the podcasting space, we pay for 0 listeners. We rely on you to share us with your friend and make us go viral and laugh at us. And even if you hate us, share us with a friend and be like, I hate these guys.
Yeah.
Do it. Just share it. I want to thank our team here, which is the executive producers, Courtney Cook, Courtney Rowe. Our senior advisors, Dan Rogachnik. Our art is by John Walsh. Our music is by Todd Hovanek and the Asset Clowns. We are Free Float Media. We'll be back at you tomorrow. That's all I got to say.
See you, Matt.
I'll see you.